Now let's talk about visual elements in Java, because everything that we've been doing up to this point, we're creating programs using the command line like it was done 30 years ago. You know, we type words into a box, we press 1 or 2 for different options, we get our responses in a box. But the way that we use software now is much more visual. We click on buttons, we type into boxes, there's labels on the screen, we check boxes, we drop down and select things. It's a very visual way, and that's called a graphical user interface, or GUI. And so Java provides us with that, but it was important to understand some of the elements of Java in general before we can move to this visual aspect of Java. And so Java actually comes with some pre-built methods for us to be able to do common things in that we'd want to do. Show messages, get input, yes, no, or cancel, that type of thing. So let's take a look at a couple of the pre-built methods that are in a class called JOptionPane. And so I'll say public class, I'll call it Pane Fun, which is actually a very good description of programming. Public static void main string args. And then the class that we need to import is in a library called the JavaX library. So I'm going to import JavaX.swing.JOption with a capital O, pane with a capital P, and that's the class that gives us these pre-built methods. And so the first thing we can do is show a message box. And so the way that we access this is to type in the name of the class, so JOptionPane, dot, and then there's a few different, they call them dialog boxes that we have available to us. So the first one is a show message dialog. So we're going to show the message dialog box. And it comes with two things that we need to give it. The first one is the parent of this box. And so what will end up happening eventually is we'll have multiple forms on the screen, and we have to tell it which box this message belongs to. Well, we're not dealing with multiple screens, and so I'm just going to leave this blank, but we can't leave it blank, so what we pass in is a null for the first part, okay? Because we're not attaching it to any specific window, it's just going to be part of the program for now, if that makes sense. And then the second part is the message that we're going to print. So I'm just going to print out hi, and if I save this and then compile and run it, then I get a message dialog. It's got the I because it's information, and here's my message that I was going to print, hi. Okay, and I can, just like I do with other strings, I could put a line return in there with a \n, go to a new line, and then say how are you ? And when I print this, then I get multiple lines printing. I can print out a paragraph if I want to, but it all comes in just this simple dialog box that's pre-built that displays a message. And so that's one way of getting information, or that's one common way to provide information, is using a message dialog box. Next we have the JOptionPane. Oh, sorry, that's the class, but the show message dialog box, and then we have a input dialog box. And so to get show input box, to get input from the user, we can do that using the JOptionPane. So it's going to be the same thing, JOptionPane, but this time it's going to be show the input dialog. Okay, and the input dialog also has this option for a container, so we won't put a specific container for it. What you just missed is I lifted up a book and I was moving it from my right side, where I'm having a hard time looking at my notes here, and moved it to my left side, and it smacked me across the face. If you rewind it just a little bit, you'll hear that smack as I'm trying to talk. But anyway, so again, we're going to leave, it's called the container, we're going to leave it blank, and then we're going to put the message that we want for the input. And so if I say something like, what is your favorite team? And this was very vague. What are we talking about here? Anyway, I just put that there. Then when I do this, it'll bring up an input dialog after, well, we've got our message dialog first, and then it'll bring up the input. Now there's a little symbol for a question because we're asking a question, we're going to get input. And then we can type the response into this box, and then we have an OK and cancel. If I click cancel, it'll close the box, just like we'd expect. And then if I type something in, if I say doubles, then it read in that input. Now the problem is, where did it read it into? Well, the answer is I read it into nowhere because I didn't put it. I didn't assign it to be read into anywhere. So if I want to store that input, I'll create a fave team variable. And then to read that in, what I need to do is set this method equal to or set the variable equal to the show input dialog method, which will then store the favorite team. And then I could print something out, system.out. Well, instead of doing a system.out, let's print out to the JOptionPane. So JOptionPane, and just say show message dialog null, and then print out the variable. So fave team, and then concatenate on is a good team. Okay, so I'll read in that input and then print out a message to show that I read it in okay. So we'll go back and say doubles, and then it prints out doubles is a good team in a message dialog, because that's the way I've set it up, right? I print out a message dialog, no container, and then this is the string that I print out. And a lot of times we'll build the string beforehand and then just pop in the string there, but we can do it inside the message dialog as well. Alright, so that's the second kind. We have a message box, we have an input box. Now one thing to take into consideration is if I, instead of doing that, if I say enter a number, and then read that in as, try to read it in as an integer instead. Okay, so now I'm reading in an integer. I'm going to get an error. Well, first of all, because I'm trying to put quote into an integer, that's not going to work. But then I'm going to get incompatible types, because what's coming out of the JOptionPane, or the show input dialog, sorry, I keep saying that. What's coming out of the show input dialog is going to be a string. And so if I want to make this into an integer, then I need to do something like read it into a string and then convert it, or wrap this whole thing in an integer.parseInt, which is a method that we've used to convert strings to integers. And then now it'll work just fine. It'll read in that number and store it in that variable. But we have to use the integer.parseInt to get that out if we want to use integers. Okay, I'll put this back to the way it was. Don't you love Control-Z? I mean, of all the greatest inventions in life, Control-Z has to be up there. Okay, so that's the input dialog. Let's do one more. So the last one we'll do is a just a common dialog. We call it a confirm box or a confirm dialog, and we do that by saying JOptionPane dot show confirm dialog. And again, we won't set a parent for now, and we can put a message in like best videos ever. Okay, a little question that we're going to ask. So then we'll go through our little script here. Hi, how are you? What's your favorite team? The Bears. The Bears is a good team. Best videos ever, and it's got a question mark, and there's a yes, a no, or a cancel. We have 3 different options that we can do, and so this is a very common thing that we see: yes, no, or cancel. Now, if I click anything, it's not going to do anything at this point because I haven't assigned any results from it. But we can read in the results by saying this. So let me store that first of all. And the result that we're going to get back is an integer, and so we'll say int, just call it the selection, and set it equal to 0 to begin with. And then what we're going to get back is the selection. It's going to be an integer that represents their choice. But rather than making us use an integer to make a decision on what to do, I can say something like if the selection is not equal to the JOptionPane.yes option. So if it's anything other than the yes option, then I'm going to say JOptionPane.showMessage dialog null boo. Okay, so now if I come in here and what's your favorite team, blah, blah is a good team, it is a good team, best videos ever, if they click no, then I'm going to get this message boo. But if we go through this again, blah, and then best videos ever, yes, I won't get that option because the scenario is false, right? Selection is not equal to JOptionPane yes option. Well, it was the yes option, so it's not going to do that. So I could add another if statement and said if selection equals the JOptionPane, if I can type, dot yes option. And I could do JOptionPane.showMessage dialog null. You're my new best friend. Okay, and now, and I could actually make this better by, instead of doing the yes option, I could say if this equals the no option, because if they cancel, I don't want to do anything, but there's also the cancel option if we want to use that. And now, if I come in and click this, hi, how are you, blah, blah's a good team, best videos ever, if I click yes, then it's going to say you're my new best friend, because that was the option that was selected in this option box. So we have the no option, the yes option, and then the cancel option. Okay, so those are the 3 main boxes that we use, that we see pretty frequently: message box, input box, and confirm box. Spencer out.